Good morning, or actually good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Covenant Security Solutions Learn at Lunch webinar series. We're really happy to begin our presentation today. We're very fortunate here in having Mr. Ron Martin. He's going to actually begin presenting to us on making sure we don't give out false or imposter credentials. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today. I really look forward to an action-packed presentation, and I look forward to hearing your presentation. Thank you again, sir.
Okay, thank you. If you can give me control now, I think we can get ready to go. Alrighty. When ready, show my screen. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, good afternoon to some, and I'm in Louisiana, so it's good morning to those in the Central Time Zone. I think this is a very good opportunity for us to look at a subject that many of you, many of us have not really taken a good look at. The issue is stop issuing secure credentials to imposters. As we go through this, you'll see how this becomes a trust issue as we move along. This is a little bit about me. I've been in this industry, in this business, both on the logical and physical side for about 35, 40 years. From the Army, police officer, project manager for the federal government, retired Army, and done some things there. And so what that has done has allowed me to do some research and have a wide breadth of things I've been danger close to, as we would say in the Army. So this is just a little bit about me, and so we'll just get right into it. When we start looking at this, how to stop imposters from getting secure credentials, we have to first begin to manage the physical and cyber identities. This is one of the most important things that we need to do. We got to start at the beginning, because if a fraudulent person was to come in and give you wrong information as to their identity, you really don't know who is operating in your space. So therefore, identity management, as we see here, is mission critical. We have to make sure that the people that we allow into our space, whether it's cyberspace or physical security, and we must answer this question: are you you? And I try to keep this very, very basic, because oftentimes we go into places and we have people and they say, give me some identification, and you hand them something, they look at it, and then they move on. But let's talk about that a little bit. When the people come to us, we got to look at those that want to do us harm, do us damage, and get into our space. They're not so obvious as to who they are, and they look just like you and I. They're dressed nice, they're not wearing the mask, and they're not have the long trench coat as the old movies and dating myself would have us to have. But they're not conspicuous. Our security or reception person, on the other hand, they have a very tedious job. And sometimes if you catch one of our ID screeners, examiners, or whomever, they don't present the best face. They're tired. They've been looking at all kinds of stuff all day. All you have to do is just look at, next time you're flying on the airplane, you have to go through the TSA line, and I applaud those individuals for trying to keep their sanity through all of that traffic going into airports. They get tired. Sometimes they're a little ruffled around the edges because people just don't understand that they are looking at a bunch of different things. So when we look at it, we have two sides of that coin. We have adversaries that are not conspicuous. We also have a security or screening person who has a problem. Now, when we look at it, a lot of people don't realize that, the first thing folks this is one statistic that many folk here in this country do not understand. There are over 300 valid, there's more than that now, driver's licenses in the country. Now they said, well, how does that happen? We only have 50 states and a few territories. Well, what happens is that if the state decides to change the format of a driver's license, they don't call all of the driver's license back and just to reissue them. What they generally do is they generally let them expire, and then they'll give you the new one. Well, you could have 3 or 4 different versions of the expiration type of driver's licenses that are available. Then we have what we call students. Students, they all have the orientation of the license will be different. Now, you're looking at this Minnesota sample, and this is landscape. Well, many of the driver's licenses for students, and they'll just change the orientation to portrait. So therefore, you got another driver's license type, or you may have another ID type. Now, if someone is looking at birth certificates and things of that nature, then it gets even worse. So if you're using a birth certificate for ID verification, that could be very problematic because, in some cases, there are no birth certificates even today. My grandparents, many of them, they didn't have birth certificates back in the turn of the century, the other century. But what they did have is they had a Bible. So they would have the names and the birth date in the Bible. And that was used way back when as a valid birth certificate. So, those are the kinds of things that when we're looking at ID verification, we have to consider. Over the course of a few years, the media has gotten into looking at fake IDs. You can see here, this is just a sampling. The ID chief, I believe, has been shut down. That was in 2011, but I believe they've been shut down, but others have taken their place. And how does this work? What it is that many of our young folks, they will go out and they will need something to prove that they're 21, even though they're 17. So they'll send a picture to an organization, pay them a few bucks, as much as $100 or $200, and they'll say, what driver's license do you want? What age do you want? And they'll say, what is your address? And so you give all that information, and then they'll get a little box with a necklace, and underneath the felt in the necklace will be their driver's license. And I will tell you that many of these are very close to being authentic. They look authentic. And as you can see here, there's been many stories about underage folks getting a driver's license. If you have a teenager that's under the age of 21, going to college or in high school, ask them. They'll probably tell you who's getting them nowadays. The availability, there's magazines, they have sales, just like it's Christmas time now, so let's have a Christmas sale on counterfeit IDs, 20% off. You have all these kinds of things that are happening. This is a big problem. Now, if you are in a sensitive location and you're using, let's say, a driver's license, it's one of the state-issued IDs to get a secure identification or a badge, this could be problematic because now you don't really know who it is that's coming into your space. Again, I had mentioned about this, about the underage problem. I know in certain states it is really off the chain, and this one, it says you can get this one for about $37.50. This is kind of dated, but I think they're a little bit more now. So this is kind of what's happening nowadays. Well, let's first look at what is an identity, and I just want to go through this really, really quick. I'm not going to try to show, but basically it defines ownership. It's your identity, and if you get onto this presentation later on, if you click on this will talk to you about the National Strategy for Trusted Identities in Cyberspace. But basically, it is a partnership between the U.S. government and private industry to try to secure the identities of persons in cyberspace. Bottom line, as you can see here, for medical, money, on and on. So this is what the identity is talking about. When we talk about a credential, this authoritatively binds the identity to something. And I want to say something. It could be a token, it could be a badge, it could be a passport. It could be something that, because what you do is you do identity proofing to get a passport. And you have to send some stuff to the post office, to the State Department, and they will issue you a passport. And it's based on that breeder document that you provide to the State Department. Is how you get your passport. This is a picture of a badge I used to carry when I was at the Department of Commerce. How did I get it? Well, first of all, we got the badge based on some proof that I had to provide to them, 2 forms of government IDs to become a federal employee, and then after I became a federal employee, then I had to do some additional vetting of documents to make sure that I was the person that was going to be issued this badge. And this badge in and of itself doesn't mean that it gives me any special anything. It's just the fact is that that's the badge, that's the credential. And you're supposed to have what we call a credential that goes along with the badge. And what does that do? What that does, it validates that you are you and that you can get into certain types of resources based on your role, based on your attributes, based on a whole bunch of things, that you, the owner of the device, system, building, whatever, you decide who can come into your space. Nowadays, and we're starting to have identities of devices. It is it. So in other words, you've got systems talking to systems. And we are now seeing a move of systems putting public key infrastructure certificates in devices so that they can talk to one another. We know that the cell phone industry right now is using near-field communications, and they're really starting to use that phone device that will interact with a point-of-sales device, which will take your money from the bank. So, you know, the thing is, when we say access, you have to look at this, and it all falls back on the identity of the person. When we start looking at ID credential standards, here are the agencies that I would say that are prevalent in the credential standards business. A lot of folks don't realize that ID1, ID2, ID3 types of documents are available, and that's all outlined in a standard promulgated by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, on these ID documents. Of course, the driver's licenses, you know, you have AMBA, and then you have FIPS 201, Federal Information Processing Standards for government smart cards. And as far as government smart cards goes, a lot of the state and local governments are going to these smart cards. A lot of private industries are going to smart cards. And here to late, as with this theft of identities at private concerns, you've heard it in the news, you know, the Targets and the other organizations, you know, not to single out Target, but there's been others, you know, and they're starting to put smart cards on the credit card so that you can go to chip and pin technology. Federal government just came out this past 3 months and says they're going to require, starting January, all payments and benefits to be given using smart chip, and pin technology. So we're starting to move, but it all goes back to the breeder document. A couple of years ago, I and 2 other of my associates, we published this paper. I have the link down at the bottom there, where we talk in detail. A lot of this is really a shortened version of a longer discussion, but you can get this document from if you just browse in your browser and put stop issuing secure documents to imposters, this will come up. This it's a good discussion on how we need to look at this whole area of reader document authentication, as well as making sure our identities are sound before we allow folks access. Now let's look at a couple of categories of documents of these credentials. As we talked before, you saw ID1, ID2, ID3. Now ID2 is not shown because that's generally used in Europe, or like Germany has what we call an Ausweis, and that's generally a 4x3 document. It's a little bit bigger than the ID1, a little bit smaller than the ID3. And basically that document is what they use for a government identity card. And so many countries have those in their ID too, but they do make up those documents. But here are some others on the left that you will see that to a greater or lesser degree are categories that are of credentials that are issued by a government entity, not necessarily federal, but a government entity. You know, the other thing that used to, I used to have to laugh at oftentimes is that we used to get these big books. We used to buy like the U.S. Identification Manual. It was so funny because I used to give it in another world when I was the Provost Marshal, Chief of Law Enforcement at a couple of installations. We used to buy these books and hand them to the guards. It says read them so that you can identify every single ID available in the world that can come up to the front gate. But of course, they looked at me like I was smoking something weird, but that's okay. But they did it anyway. They basically looked through it, and sometimes somebody will come up with a driver's license they've never seen, and they would look at it, and it says, okay, all right, I see the license in the book, so it's got to be good. So they would issue this book, and there's an online version. But again, it is not good enough to actually detect some of the sophisticated fraudulent documents that are available to the United States today. First of all, let's look at, and this is just really quick, I want to just look at the anatomy of a driver's license. And many of you, if you look at your driver's license, some of this you can see, some of it you can't see. You can see the OCR content, which is basically your name, address, that information. You can see your photo. Sometimes you can't see the microprint. The microprint is very small, and it is readable with a very strong magnifying glass. You can read it, but there is print in there. There's the state seal. And I will say to you, I will submit to you that not everyone on this webinar know every state seal for every state in the United States. So if they was to put any state seal in there, probably you wouldn't catch it as a fraudulent state seal unless you're just a state seal aficionado, that you would love to see state seals and that you've memorized them all, and that it is correct, as you can see how it's shown there. Then also there is the machine readable type of stuff. There's the holograms. There is all kinds of stuff that you, the lay person, cannot see. So when you see a driver's license, and if you look at your driver's license, you'll see certain features. Like where I live at in Louisiana, there's a certain amount of state, the geographical outline of the state, and then you have one of these outlines that are cut in half. That is a security feature on every driver's license. You have the same type of thing on the driver's license that you have. On a passport, we're talking about, these are the kinds of things of the new passports that are available, and these are the things that are security features in the passport. Chip, processor, antenna, RFID labels, the identification stuff, machine-readable stuff, and the human-readable stuff. So that's why when you come into the airport, if you use your passport coming into the country or leaving or going into another country, they'll stick it into a scanner, and the scanner will basically go through an algorithm to read all of the stuff that is supposed to be on a given passport. Now, this is some of the tools historically that we have used to determine the seal to the airport, and you will see like this little pin here. You'll see something similar to it that the TSA agent will use it to kind of see the holograms, to see that there's one present. Not that they can read it, but they can see that there's one present. And it looks like it'll be in the general vicinity of where it's supposed to be. Not many of your TSA agents or anybody else that's looking at it will have these other tools here, that have these other tools available to really look at the document. So those are the kinds of things that's happening on that. So what I call it about this is in 2012. It had gotten to me. So I wrote this article in SecurityToday.com, and I said a few things. Looks like everybody is using the DLR standard. That means that every screener must have calibrated eyeballs. They may be able to see all of the security features, both OCR and others. They must commit to memory every variations of ID 1, 2, and 3 documents. All screeners must do this in less than 10 seconds. And based on the above abilities, the screeners approve the presented document as the basis for a secure credential. And I don't have to tell everybody on this webinar that's what happens. Now, what does DLR stand for? DLR stands for Don't Look Right. So what we do is we use the Don't Look Right standard, that if it doesn't look right, then we'll say no. But if it looks right, we'll let it go. So it's the Don't Look Right standard. And so this article, I kind of talk about that because screeners today cannot detect all of the fraudulent documents. Now, fraudulent documents, there's many of your states have fraudulent misrepresentation statutes on the books. For the federal government, these are some of the statutes that can be used if someone was to present a fraudulent document. You can go to your state, you can look at it, but I will say that you need to do your due diligence on this because the folks, want to get an extra driver's license just in case they misplace one, and a lot of people will do that. And you want to make sure that you catch the expired or the one that they're not supposed to have. Now, how do we fix this? Tools for automated checking. As I said, you can sit down and you can look at stuff, but the fatigue will kill you. You have the security guard or the security ID examiner. They're sitting behind the desk most of the day, and they're tired. So the thing is that we need to do this in an automated way. These are some of the devices that are looking for identity authentication. Here, there was some congressional testimony in 2006 to the Board of Security where they talked about it. These are the types of devices that are located on point of sales. And this was in one police department. It's about 3 or 4 police departments, including Rikers Island and NYPD, that has this type of scenario here where they'll actually take the driver's license, stick it into this device, and it will go through all of its thing, and it will check it. This is one of the readers, the scanners, and how it scans. This is a flatbed reader that will do this. And these are some of the mobile devices that will read it. In the interest of time, I just want to kind of explain to you a little bit about some of these mobile devices, and you will see them. And all of these mobile devices will do a forensics test on a reader document, ID 1, ID 3, within 6 seconds, and will tell you the validity of that document based on the design characteristics. PivMan was used some years ago when they had a bad airplane crash in Virginia Beach, and where they was able to validate all of the first responders that had smart cards and all types of things. That they was to use this type of device. That's what the PivMan is this type of device, where they was able to validate the person's identity that was issued with very strong identification, reader document identification. Here's what they will allow. I'm not going to try to go into all of these, but they can, these identifiers can do system and you have a database, they can capture the document, the information off of the card, send it to your system, and to do some reference checking. So those are the types of things that you see here that it will allow. Really quick, this is one of the detection of bad IDs. One company, SureTech, has technologies, and there's others out there, but SureTech is the one that I would recommend. It basically looks at the document. This is a green card. And as you can see, there's an alert. It does all of the checks, and it says these are some problems with this document. Now, exactly what the problems are, that's a different story. We can get into all of the checks that it makes, but basically it will give you an alert. Once that alert happens, and here's one with the driver's license. Here's a couple of things that's wrong with the driver's license. So it basically gives you an alert within 6 seconds as to the validity. It does a forensic analysis. Now, one company called Quantum Secure basically takes that information, they scan the credential, they basically do the checks that we just said. Here's where they did a driver's license, and then what they did is they enrolled the person based off of a sound, a past credential. That gives them a 99.9% that the identity credential was issued by the Commonwealth of Virginia, for example. And then they complete the registration of the applicant. But first, they do a breeder document authentication before they do that. This has been a really quick, and I apologize for the short delay at the beginning of the presentation. Technology superior to operator had some of those issues. But,
well, it was well worth the hesitation, though. It was very good information. I really like that about the PIV man, and just understanding the anatomy of a credential. I look at my driver's license differently now. I really appreciate that. Now, we can contact you where for more information?
Yeah, at on the first part of the slide, if I can, I don't know if I can get back up to it, but yeah, okay, let me go back up here. Here's, this is a copy of my, I'm more than willing to talk with anyone. Send me an email, ron@consullition.com. Just give me a question. I'll try to get back with you. I promise a 48-hour response, except during the season, of course, as you know. All of us is going to be doing some other things. So, but give me an email with your questions, and I'll be more than willing to respond back with a reply.
It's really exciting working with you, Ron. I'm really happy to be able to partner with you on some initiatives, and we look forward to doing great things together. Again, I thank you all out there for attending today's webinar session. We look forward to doing great things in 2015. You all have a great day.
All right, thank you.